Our partners include Crow Real Estate and Auction, Rivals Tap House and Grill, Nelson House Funeral Homes, Success Group Mortgage and Servicing, and the Wash of Owasso. Well, we have a very special MHSAA March Magic program for you here today. We'll be talking hoops with two of our favorite coaches, Kyle Clough of Rockford and John Fattal of the undefeated 20-0 Freeland Falcons. And fellas, this is one of my favorite times of the year. It's the first week of the districts on the boys' side, and we usually pack in at least 4 or 5 games that first week. So I'm going to be pretty busy on top of this podcast, but it's always a lot of fun.
I think one thing that makes it cool is it always comes. I mean, like in college basketball, the women's conference tournaments are going. There's a couple men's tournaments going, but this coming up week is when the men's conference tournaments really start going. And it's almost like high school is like a little bit of a teaser for college basketball March Madness. It kind of like gets you going for it. So that's kind of what I always remember. And then obviously the playing days, just getting to play in the districts and then beyond is, just a completely different experience. But it is really, really cool.
It is the perfect lead in. I remember when I was in high school that we lost like in districts, and I remember like the silver linings was, hey, at least next week I get to watch like March Madness totally undisturbed. But no, there's something in the air, something magical. You can't. It's what we love about the tournament. It's what we hate about the tournament is it's so many crazy things can happen both in high school and in college. So that's why it's the most fun. And that's why everybody just is, it's like there's a new juice in the air. I feel like Michigan knows it's March because finally we have a couple nice weather days as well.
Yeah, the sun came out, right?
Oh, it's going to be 60, 63 today here, man. All the snow's melted already. And it's just a teaser, though. We're going to get hit again, I'm sure.
I think it is I think the weather thing is part of it. It's kind of like we always talk about with the Masters. When the Masters come around, it's like, ooh, summer is right around the corner. It's kind of the same with March Madness. It feels like winter is going. Yeah, like you said, Ted, that Michigan always teases you. In a few weeks, you're probably going to get another snowstorm or something.
Oh, yeah. Well, we're going to be talking big time on this podcast, high school basketball. Matt, obviously, out of the three of us, your high school days took you the farthest as you went all the way to the Breslin Center. I don't know if your greatest memory from that year was the win in the semifinals or just playing at Breslin. I mean, Jared, did you make it even to a district final? I made it to one district final.
Yeah, I made it to a district final my senior year. Heartbreaking loss.
Yeah, I remember, we didn't have the greatest team. It was my junior year, but we beat, I think we beat Holly and beat some other school to get to the district final. It was at Fenton High School. And I just remember how cool it was because in the gym, they turned out all the lights and had this big spotlight on the player introductions at the beginning. And I thought, man, that was pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, well, when you talk about memories, I'm not going to try and take over this segment, but that whole run, I could list 10 different things that are my favorite memory. You mentioned in the player, the introductions, the day that we went to Breslin to play in the Final Four, we had a pep assembly at the high school that like the whole community was invited to. Like it was the second half of the school day. They just stopped school and it was a huge production. I mean, they had video, they had basically like a PA announcer for it. And we did player introductions. There was smoke, our coach, Jared's dad did this whole, like a good long speech and stuff like that. So that was pretty awesome. Made us feel like we were like kings of the city or something like that. So that was cool. But honestly, like it was just the whole run, the community support that we've talked about on this podcast a number of times with Corunna and obviously a number of other communities. But our stands were packed. I mean, packed top to bottom in every bleacher that every school we went to, Corunna for our home games also. The community support was just incredible. And so that was cool to see. One thing that stuck out. So yesterday, obviously we're recording Sunday. Saturday was Coach K's last game, last home game at Cameron Indoor. And, that's just a legendary arena. And one of the coolest things about that arena is like the fans are basically right on top of the court. There's not much space around the court there. And it made me remember one thing, obviously much smaller scale, but our districts were at Durand. And if you guys remember Durand, same thing, unless they've changed it, I'm not sure. But when I was playing, the bleachers were right on the court. Even your your bench that you sat on, the bleachers were right behind you. So sometimes you had like your parents sitting right behind the
I think
bench.
the bleachers, I think literally the first row of the bleachers are the bench. I think,
Yes.
if I remember right.
Yeah.
It's still the same too.
Yeah. So I remember one time, I mean, it was packed to the gills with fans and everything. I mean, standing room only, people standing all around the gym for that district. And at one point, I was taking the ball out on the other sideline, like our benches were, on this side, on the other side. So and literally it was like Cameron, you always see the video of the students doing this. I was taking the ball out and there were people like all around me and the ref had to like push people back and stuff. So, stuff like that's cool. And then just like we've talked about with high school football, it's like the memories of with playing with my friends. Like if we get together and talk, if we have a reunion, whatever happens, a text chat or something like that with the guys on that team, that's the stuff that we talk about. I mean, even, 20 years later, we still talk about some of those memories. It'll be cool to talk to Kyle later, who obviously was the point guard of that team. So it's just all that stuff. It's just stuff that, it's never gonna forget it.
Would you guys say Michigan is more of a basketball state or more of a football state? What do you think gets the people going more in terms of high school football? Is it basketball or football? My gut instinct is football, but I don't know. Like we were just talking about, something about the air when March rolls around. I wouldn't say this for the regular season, but when the actual tournament is rolling and you get to the Breslin, I feel like it's just got a little bit more magic to it.
Overall, I agree with that.
Yeah.
I think for fan interest in watching on television, I don't know. I think the football maybe edges it out a little bit, but you can't shortchange what they got going on in the in basketball at Breslin and all that. It's very cool.
So yeah, I was going to ask you kind of about that, Ted. I agree with you guys. As big as football is, I think maybe especially come tournament time, it might lean basketball.
I think it's also because there's only 4 classes for basketball
Yeah.
and there's 8 for football. So it's like in basketball, it still really, really, really means a lot. Like if you win a state championship, that the team was damn good.
Yeah.
Whereas football, there's some kind of divisions that aren't that way and you never know what can happen. But basketball is still 100% legit.
Right. And it's I mean, we talked about it with the MHSAA changing rules for football and, our differing opinions on that. But, everyone gets a shot in basketball. So whether that's good or bad, who knows? But it's kind of cool to think even if you go 4-16 in your regular season, you still get a shot to go win a district. I mean, Corunna that one year, 6, 7, 8 years ago, they had a pretty poor regular season.
8-12 rolling into districts made it to the regional finals. So
right.
Yeah, like you said, anything can happen.
It's pretty cool. So yeah, I was going to ask you though, Ted, like so obviously Corunna's state title in 1983 when they won it was at Chrysler. Now, obviously, everything's at Breslin for the finals. In your opinion, like, do you think one is better than the other? Was it cool to have it at Chrysler, where Michigan played? Or, Breslin obviously is a really cool arena too.
Yeah, I mean, it was really cool when it was at Chrysler, but I think the Breslin's perfect for the high school playoffs just because it's centrally located in the state. I mean, it's easy to get to. It's just a good arena for the finals. I think they used to play. This is I go as far back as every semifinal Friday. We used to always go to the Class A doubleheader at the old arena, and that was just an incredible atmosphere back in those days. And Flint dominated back then, whether it be Flint Central or Flint Northern. There was just tremendous teams that came out of Flint back in those days when we used to watch the semis. But it is a very cool thing. If you want to bring a bunch of guys together on a Friday to go watch the top players in the state in the Class A semifinals, it's a great afternoon. You get a doubleheader. You could grab some lunch in between or dinner afterwards. It's kind of a cool thing. And now that I'm semi-retired, I might start making that an annual pilgrimage again. It's cool.
It used to be awesome. Every when I was growing up, it was like our family tradition. By the end of it, we'd bring like a group of 10 or 20 of our friends. It felt like, but me, my dad, my brothers, we used to always go to the Breslin Center on the Friday before the state finals when it was the 2 Class B games, 2 Class A games, and 2 Class B games. And that was just an awesome tradition. And it's just, It's weird. You get a little bit nostalgic when you start thinking about it. And I'm lucky enough, and Ted, you're lucky enough, Matt, you still keep your finger on the pulse, but we're lucky enough to still be able to kind of cover it in some sense. So at least we still have that sort of connection still.
Yeah, it is cool because, yeah, you get to see a lot of good talent. And, obviously some of the players do go on to play at the next level. But, you think about just like there's a lot of really good, just like high school basketball players in Michigan and all over the country also. But there's some really good players that end up not going to college. So to get to go to the Breslin or, wherever it was, Chrysler, wherever it was, you get to see a lot of good basketball. If you like high school basketball, you can really appreciate it. It is fun to do that, go to Breslin and just watch all those games. Like talking about Breslin, I always think about, it felt like it probably wasn't. It felt like it was sold out for our game.
Mm-hmm.
It probably wasn't.
It probably wasn't.
But we played Grand Rapids South Christian, so a bit of a hike for them, but I'm sure they traveled well. I mean, they did. There was a ton of people there. But it just felt like, it felt like you were in a college game. That's kind of like the memory, like in the locker rooms with Michigan State stuff all over. There was like Magic Johnson posters, Mateen Cleaves posters everywhere and stuff like that. And then you go out and it's just like, it feels like you're playing in a college game. So it is a really cool experience. I mean, we ended up losing to Grand Rapids South Christian, but I got a little playing time, scored a couple points. The one thing though, it ended up not being in the box score, so I'm a little upset. But right at the end of the game with the buzzer, the ball trickled to me, and I shot a half court shot at the buzzer, like of the game. We were down. We were going to lose, but that was like my one shining moment. That was my.
You
one,
made
I was
it?
Like, no, I missed it.
Oh, okay. I was just saying.
If I would have made it and it didn't make it in the box score, I think I would have emailed the MHSAA and been like, "Come on, just put it in the box score."
So you said, but you did have a point. Like that would be kind of funny if that was like there was no registration that you ever even played on the court. If that
right.
shot, but you did have a bucket before that, right? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and all of our starters, that is one thing that's cool. We talked about all of our starters scored. So, we're all in the box score. We brought up some, like sophomores and stuff, and a couple of those guys got in to play. So yeah, really cool. And it was just like one more quick memory. I mean, I could just go on and on about this, but at Breslin, we were in the district final against Linden. We actually went down we were down 20 at one point in the third quarter. It was looking pretty bleak, and we went on just an absolutely insane run, 25-0 run, or just something ridiculous. Again, something that when in the moment you feel like you're in a sold out NBA arena, but we were at Durand, but still a sold out small, loud as hell. I mean, it was loud in there. And going back and watching the video, I've got my mom was taking video. I've got the game video. I've got a bunch of different videos of it. It was an electric atmosphere. I mean, there were some moments that we had a couple and ones and our student section's going crazy and it's just erupting. Ted, you might have been there calling it on the radio.
I'm sure I was. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just some of those memories. It's just, stuff that sticks with you forever, I guess. So yeah, I'm excited to talk to John and Kyle coming up.
One thing I will say is for anyone that happens to find their way down to the Breslin this year for the state finals, you got to check out this new, I was just there for shoot yesterday, this new whole wing that Draymond Green basically donated and they built. It's sweet HD. It's right where they basically have shifted the Magic Johnson statue. I was like, this place does not look how I remember it looking.
Oh, they
Magic
moved
Johnson
it.
statue is no longer basically in the center of the Breslin. It's been moved all the way by almost where Tom Izzo's office is, or where I've been told his office is.
Right.
And you walk right in through those doors, and it's 100-foot HD TVs playing Michigan State's greatest memories. There's all their different uniforms laid out. It's exactly what a recruit would go and look at, and it was actually pretty sweet. I mean, state of the art. It's crazy how much money is flowing through these college programs nowadays.
That's what I was going to ask. So I've heard about Draymond donating and doing this. Is that what it is? It's more like a show off Michigan State basketball type of thing.
Yeah, but I believe that there's also been I think a new practice courts and new things as well, a new weight room. I think, but on top of that, it's also been this whole recruit experience.
Right.
Which I guess must have turned off Imani Bates for whatever reason.
Give yourself a Bally Sports plug here. Is that what you were doing, covering that, or what's the feature coming up?
Can't leak anything about the feature yet, but it's let's just say we're a player we interviewed 3 or 4 years ago that was a very successful high school player who's now on Michigan State. We're basically doing comparing 2 interviews, him when he was like in high school compared to him now, just about to graduate. So it should be a great story. Great
Very
game.
cool. We're talking about the high school tournament, and every team gets in the tournament, and you just never know what's going to happen. Anything can happen. I mean, I'm going to go all the way back to '83 when Jared's dad, John, won the state championship in the districts. I think it was even the first game against Durand. Corunna virtually would have lost if the Durand player would have hit a free throw at the end of regulation, and it went to overtime. And the guy that actually fouled the Durand player, even though John denies it, it was John that committed the foul.
They didn't call him for it or something?
Oh, no, they called him for the foul. And
Oh.
Picture this, guys. Here is me, my dad, and my brother George all standing up, and we're all shaking our heads going, oh, no, John. But he got bailed out. They missed the free throw, and then we all know the rest. They rolled on to the state championship. You just never know.
What's the story? I'm trying to remember, Jared. I know you know because you watched the state title game 175 times. You said, didn't he like rack up a bunch of fouls in the first half too, or something?
No, there was
or he was getting cooked.
Freddie Marshall
was getting cooked. Yes,
toasting him. Yes.
Guy probably had 20 points in the first quarter. It's all that way anyway.
Yeah, that is an awesome story. It is. I mean. Now what? I mean, we're starting to look at 40 years ago that state title happened. I mean, that's a pretty cool like run, obviously, that we've talked about a bunch. I mean, we had basically the whole team on the podcast, a while back.
Yeah.
So it would be cool. I mean, small communities, it's cool for any community, but sometimes like those bigger Detroit schools that win titles all the time, it's almost kind of like whatever, not really, but you know what I mean? But like when small communities like Corunna or others make a run, it is like a Cinderella story type of thing. It is cool.
I just want to go back for a second. Just crossed my mind. You asked the question about having the finals at Chrysler or at Breslin. The one neat thing I always liked about how they did it down there in Ann Arbor was they just had the lights shine directly down on the court, and then in the stands it was darkened, and it was that was kind of a neat atmosphere, to have the lights above you on the court, but it was kind of darker in the stands. That was
kind of like Madison Square Garden, kind of.
Right.
Or the Staples Center. I don't know why more teams don't do that. I know the Lakers are kind of known for that. I actually know the Lakers, their like whole light setup is basically like trademarked or something like that. So no other team can like copy it. Like the Clippers can't go and do the same exact thing the very next night. It's like basically forbidden. So I don't know, but no, I agree that it is awesome when places do that. But I can't complain about the Breslin atmosphere. I mean, all I've ever known is the state championships being at Breslin, and I've never thought it to be a problem. So, and it's a short drive from where I used to live. So all that was all good.
You brought up the Lakers, and this would normally be a Tedtertainment thing, but I'll just throw it in there real quick. Like, are you guys looking forward to the new movie Winning Time on HBO? Or I guess it's a series. You just
butchered that about 3 different ways. It's not I don't think it's a movie. I think it's a show.
No, I corrected myself. It's on Showtime.
I thought it was called Showtime. I thought maybe it's called Winning Time, but no, I thought it was Showtime. But no, it looks awesome. I mean, Adam McKay, anything he does is great. And I actually know that the actor that plays Magic Johnson is Kalamazoo college football player, former football player, played center on the team, and then now he's next thing you know, a couple years later, he's in Hollywood playing Magic Johnson, probably about to have his career take off. So pretty cool story.
Quincy Isaiah is his name.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see it. Laker fan or whatever, and to see some of the, the Showtime Lakers stuff here. Maybe I'm curious how deep they'll go. Right?
Yeah.
Are they going to have to sugarcoat quite a bit of stuff? Because I'm sure they can't say everything that was going on back with the Showtime Lakers back in the 80s.
It should be awesome though, man.
Yeah. I'm not sure. Right? I'm not sure they'll sugarcoat it or not. I don't know.
Ted, if this show is not great, would you say your retirement plans for the next 8 weeks have kind of been canceled?
In what way? I guess I don't understand.
It just kind of seemed like how you usually go out and mark off what you're going to watch. It seems like this show has been taking up a big time slot, and it might be not that good.
No, it's on the list, and I'm sure I'll stick with it the whole way, even if it's bad. But I can't imagine it. I can't imagine it'll be bad. I really can't.
No, I can't either.
The clips I've seen, it looks like they've casted it real well.
And what's important about, and I hate when movies don't do it, like The Blind Side, when you got Michael Orr somehow blocking a guy like 70 yards downfield and like putting him
Right.
over a fence. It's actually, they took a very they made it very important to themselves to make it like realistic basketball scenes.
Yeah.
And you know that if this show was good actors with guys who couldn't play basketball, it would immediately take you out of it. So I'm
Right.
glad they at least got that right. That was necessary.
That's such a huge part with sports movies or TV shows, is once they actually get to the game, if it looks realistic. Because when it doesn't, it's a little bit like, oh, all right, this is pretty corny right now.
Well, I don't think this will surprise you guys. The thing that drives me probably the most bonkers on sports movies is when they have play-by-play guys actually doing the play-by-play through the
Over the
PA speaker.
That'll probably be of this show too.
How
That's just
stupid
every
is
show,
that?
man.
I mean, it's just dumb.
Yeah. I mean, it must just be like in the production, it's just easier to do it that way instead of
guess.
like acting like people are listening to the radio or something.
Right.
Well,
Yeah, I don't know. I would agree. It's
it
like,
is
why
kind
not
of funny.
just show the announcer, show like somebody listening at home or something,
Yeah.
and then act like he's broadcasting it over the entire arena. Like that's
Hey.
all. That's really all that you need to set the stage.
Here's one
Yeah.
for you guys. I don't know if I ever told you this. Maybe you know it or don't know it. I actually did play-by-play in a movie.
Uh-oh.
Did you ever hear
How
about
has this
that?
not come up in Entertainment Tonight?
No
Is
kidding.
it X-rated?
No, listen. Tony Hornis from Corunna, another Corunna Cavalier grad, after his newspaper career at the Argus Press, decided he was going into movie making, and he made a movie about the kidnapping and the killing of Dawn Magyar, the local story here from the early 70s. You guys probably have heard that before.
Yeah.
And it was called, I think, An Ordinary Killer was the movie. But Tony called me up, and part of the movie, they needed somebody to recreate some play-by-play of the Michigan State Michigan game that year. So I had to do a little research. I wrote down some bullets. Think how hard this might have been, because it was pretty tough to do. I had some bullet points, some names of the players that were on both teams, and I had to recreate some play-by-play that they could put in the background. They had a television. They had a spot in the movie where they were in a bar, and the Michigan State game was on the TV behind them, and they played my voiceover for that. That was pretty cool, and I even got a credit at the end of the movie.
That's cool.
Nice.
I was thinking like back then, right, much harder, because now you could just bring up the game replay on YouTube and
Right.
just watch the game and call it. But back then you probably couldn't do that. You had to just make it up.
Well, that was my 15 minutes of fame.
That's cool. Maybe we'll
That's
have to watch it and do a real Entertainment Tonight.
Does that movie have did that movie win a Razzie or anything?
I don't know about that, but it was pretty interesting for sure. I think I even have the book, so that I don't get any credit in that, but it was fun to do.
One of the big Rotten Tomatoes reviews is, during the bar scene, play-by-play of the Michigan State game is spot on.
Hey, I will tell you this: if you zip through it, you're gonna miss it, because I think it was like it took me probably 2 hours to do this thing. I'm trying to remember back, but it was like a 5-second clip, right? It wasn't much to it. Hey, before we sign off here and get our coaches on, I did want to throw one final thing in on what has really evolved in high school basketball, and that's the girls' game. I mean, girls' high school basketball is just really, really entertaining, right on par with the boys' game. I mean, here locally, we're all Corunna Cavaliers. Ellie Toney finished up a great career with Corunna as the all-time leading scorer, and she just had a great career. And Ovid Elsie has a great girls basketball team this season. They're moving on to the regionals for the first time since, I think, 1984. So it's really come a long way. And heck, Fowler and Portland St. Pat, we did a game of those two schools in the regular season. Real close matchup. St. Pat beat them twice in the regular season. They were upset last week and got beat. And so now it's Fowler moving on, looking to defend their crown. So it's great basketball.
That's cool. Yeah, everything we said, we were more maybe talking about the boys' game, but everything we said, it's the same with the girls too.
Yep.
Quality basketball. And the community support. I'll claim my ignorance on this. Where do they play the state finals for girls basketball, though?
That's at Breslin too, I believe. So
yeah. So same thing there. Yeah, go catch a whole full day of girls hoops, and it is pretty cool.
Well, it's that time of year. They call it March Magic in the MHSAA, and we're going to talk some March Magic with head coach John Fattal of the Freeland Falcons right after this. All right, next up on the podcast, one of our favorites, 20-0 Freeland Falcons head coach John Fattal. John, I don't know. I might slip in a Johnny once in a while. Is that all right?
That'd be okay, Uncle Ted.
But anyway, congratulations on where you're at right now. You got a bye. You open up Wednesday night in the districts. First of all, I'll just start it out by saying, man, you got a nice team. We had a chance to broadcast your squad over at Pewamo, Westphalia. You seem to be strong in pretty much all aspects. I mean, we'll ask you questions here as we go along, but I think not only talent-wise, but it seems like they have the right mindset. That kind of starts with you, obviously, but it seems like they all have bought into the program and are operating on all cylinders.
Well, I think it's very easy just to get say, oh, it's the head coach, but it's really like a community type thing. It's like our whole entire community and these kids' parents and the kids themselves and the entire school is bought into just doing things the right way.
Mhm.
It just so happens that our kids are very, very talented as well. And so, just like you read in the MLive article, like our kids they've been playing together. I mean, we have 9 seniors. They've been playing together since 3rd grade. And the parents send us pictures all the time of them in 3rd grade and 4th grade, playing basketball, playing football together. And so it really has just been it's like the epitome of when a really good group starts in 2nd grade and plays all the way up and they stay together until they're seniors. Like they're going to be successful, especially when the community and the parents are bought into.
It's funny that you're saying that because as we're talking about this, we talked a little bit before you came on about our memories from, high school basketball March Madness. And obviously I played for your dad and, we made a run to the Breslin Center back in 2003. And everything you just said right there, I feel like could have been the exact same thing I say about our run that year with Corunna, because the community support, it was 10 guys who had played basketball together basically our whole lives. We had a couple guys who came over from different schools, but they were like neighboring schools. So we knew each other. We knew each other our whole lives. Like you said, the community support, we liked each other. We were together. But then the one thing you said, you got 9 seniors. Is that what you said?
9 seniors. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was just telling Ted and we talked about it. So our main 10 guys on that team, we had 9 seniors also, 9 seniors and 1 junior. And the 1 junior was Dan Hess, who ended up going to play at Western Michigan. So, pretty good player. So yeah, how big, so what I want to ask you, how big is that? Not only the experience playing together and the community support and all that, but the senior leadership, because just thinking of my experience, the senior leadership on our team was just, it was everything. It was huge.
It's huge. We tell our guys all the time. I'm going to rope in every single junior too, but I would, if they're my teammate, I'd look at them right now as like a leader. It's like they come to me and they want to address something. We're going to have a very good conversation, and they are very mature in how they handle things. And I think the best thing is there's no animosity, period. We talk about it all the time too with that, is like not a single kid cares who is getting the credit. Not a single one. And that's the kind of the joy in all of it. Is I think that's a kind of a senior laden thing too, is they kind of have known their role their entire almost like their entire life, and they just love playing together. And I think that's just a thing with being seniors all the time too. Yeah.
The elephant in the room, obviously the Fattal connection. The thing I have to ask you, I mentioned that, I played for your dad, great coach. He won a state title as a player at Corunna. The easy question is, what did you take, from your dad, maybe as a mentor to, you as a head coach now? What kind of lessons did you take from him?
Well, not just my dad, but like you got BJ Jameson, you have Steve Bush, you have Kyle for sure. My goodness. And I think that we all kind of took away just like attention to detail and a commitment to improving and always willing to get better. And I think that's probably the biggest one, is like my dad, I was thinking about this earlier today because I figured this question was probably going to come up. Is like, I remember his classroom door, and he always had the constant and never ending improvement all on his classroom door. And just, I think he's always lived by that. And I think he's definitely passed that on to not only me, but my brothers too. And the other coaches that are probably Kyle, who was just on this podcast.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, Jared. You can jump back in, but when you say attention to detail, we've like some friends that play for that team, and we joke about things that we used to do back in the day, and we would always have it. I mean, I swear it was like, looking back, it was probably just a couple pages, but in high school, it seemed like a 15-page scouting report on every team. We would have tape breakdown, and this is back in 2002, 2003, so it wasn't like you could just download highlights and make these like highlight tapes or whatever. So the attention to detail, that is. It's funny you say that because that was spot on playing for your dad.
What I said earlier, I don't know, my connection is apparently horrible here, but
yeah, you cut out.
This team seems like it's a lot of fun. Like you said, they all share the ball. Nobody cares who gets the credit. It's early in your career, but do you think looking back in 20 years, this will still be one of your favorite teams, no matter what happens in March?
Yeah, because they're a blast to hang out with outside the basketball court too. It's like they are. I was texting one of the kids last night about the Duke NC game. And it's just stuff like that. They come see me every single day. We talk every single day, whether they were in football season, whether we're on the basketball court. They are people first, and they are absolutely great kids. And they're going to be great adults when they grow up too. So yeah, it'll be one of my favorite teams for sure.
Something we talked about in the last pod was how teaching has kind of made it. I don't want to say a lot of coaches like leave the profession, but it sort of has in a way. Do you think that there would be any way for a coach to have a successful program if he's not a teacher at the school?
Yeah, but it would be very hard. I'm not exactly sure. I mean, yeah, you could do it. I wouldn't want to. I don't know if I would be. I don't know if I'd be in coaching if I wasn't a teacher. Just the completely different time commitment. But I guess I'll look at our girls program. Our Coach Z, who was the girls coach before our coach now, he was not a teacher, and he was working third shift. So his mornings were like basketball games or basketball practice,
right?
And he'd go work third shift. And I mean, his program is, and then now Coach H, his program is unbelievably successful. So it can work. I just don't know what it looks like.
Yeah, you talk about the girls. I think they won the district, right? They're in the regionals and are moving on. But back to you, John. Oh, they did lose? Okay.
Yeah.
So I was good on my facts again. Real nice, Ted. But back to you, John. 25 years old, you get the head coaching job. You're now in your third season there at Freeland with an undefeated regular season. I mean, that's just a tremendous accomplishment. You'll always have that on your dad. He won a state championship as a player, but they lost some games. He lost some games, went to the semifinals with Matt's team, but you got an undefeated regular season, year 3. And since this is year 3, those seniors, you had a good share of them on varsity as a sophomore. You must have really been able to, as a young guy, to relate to them right out of the gates and get them to buy in your program, and then look how it's paid off. I mean, how important was that?
Well, I think also another thing is when they were sophomores, I also had them in class every single day too. I had every single sophomore in class every single day. So it's not, yeah, it's gonna be hard saying goodbye to these guys because we have spent so much time together.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it was important to come in at 25, but I think truthfully, because of these kids, like they're going to connect with anyone because they're great kids. Like our teachers around the building sincerely want them to do well. Like these kids are connected with all their teachers too and all their other coaches. So age probably had a little something to do with it as far as connecting, but they were going to relate to just about any coach that they had, truthfully.
Yeah. Yeah, something I like to ask people. We have a lot of former Cavaliers on at different levels, whether it's coaches or in the media or whatever. Something I like to ask. You were talking about the community support up in Freeland. What did you take from your experience at Corunna, growing up there, watching your dad coach, and then at your playing career and everything? What did you take kind of from your experience at Corunna that you kind of take over to Freeland and, translates into your coaching style?
again, I think just like the attention to detail and just preparation, and then just the constant wanting to constantly improve and grow. And that's something that we just talk about all the time with our guys too. It's like when the coach is trying to hopefully consistently grow and improve, then the kids will too. And I think that, again, I think that's kind of like a Corunna thing and a small town thing and just a growth thing.
For a lot of our listeners, they might not be familiar with Freeland. Can you maybe roll through your team and kind of some of the good players you have and what they bring to the table and what you might expect from them in this March run?
Well, we start 4 seniors and a junior. So we start Bryson Huckabee, who is a 4-year varsity basketball player and a 4-year varsity quarterback. We start Alex Dooley, who is a 4-year varsity basketball player and a 4-year varsity football player. And then we start Josh Elliott, who's a 3-year varsity basketball player who lives in the gym. We start Cullum LeBaron, who is probably one of the best shooters in the state of Michigan. We start Jacob Kowalski, whose dad used to coach at Bridgeport when they went to the Final Four. So he's like a coach's kid, kind of like myself and you, Jared. And then we have Jacob Kundinger, who comes off the bench, who was a 2-year varsity basketball player, but a 4-year varsity football player and just kind of like a tough as nails type kid. And then we have Gabe Blanchard, who's about 6'4", 6'5", who is just a battering ram, who's very, very solid and continuing to grow and get better. And then we have our next guys up. And then we have Garrett Pistro, who is a phenomenal kid and a phenomenal leader. We have Luke East, who, as you guys know, when you guys see him at a basketball game, who is just kind of running the show from the bench and a leader in his own right. You have Grant Backus, who we think he's going to come to life in the tournament. You have Nate Niederquill, you have Tommy Melzo, and is that 13? I always get one mixed up.
I believe so.
Oh,
yeah.
Drew Kowalski, who is another phenomenal senior leader for us. And I mean, just kind of the same thing. Number one, our guys share the basketball and they're constantly getting better in practice and they're constantly challenging each other and looking for ways to improve. And by challenging, I don't mean like there's ripping on each other, but like they're always trying to get the best out of each other, and they all know each other and how to get that done.
You know, Johnny, we appreciate the time here, and I got a couple follow-up questions kind of together here. I know in that MLive article, it's been 40 years since a Freeland team's been undefeated, and there was a get-together with some of the players and the coach. Talk about that a little bit, how important that was, and also your mindset getting ready for the tournament. Is there anything different in your preparation this year compared to the other couple of years?
So with the 1982 team, our athletic director was actually on that team, and he is as big in the Freeland basketball as you could get. And so he brought in his old coach, who was the head coach at Freeland. Talking about teacher coach, he was the head coach at Freeland for 32 years. So he had amassed like over 425 wins, I think. So he's just kind of like when you really think about history, and he was telling our athletic director was telling me this, I'm only the 5th coach at Freeland because this guy had spent such a long time teaching and coaching. So he was just beloved. And then another player for Freeland during that 1982 team was the head coach is the head coach at Sanford Meridian, who we played last Tuesday night. So it was to see those guys come in, and especially earlier in the week, Coach Franz is his name, came in and spoke to our team, and guys to kind of connect the history back to that team, I think was cool for our guys, but I think it was also very important for Coach Franz, and it meant a lot to our athletic director Jeff Bell as well. But looking forward to the tournament, no, our preparation is not gonna change. You know, it's we attack every single day the same exact way, and we attack each opponent the same way as well, regardless of who they are. I mean, obviously, I'm speaking in generalities here, but
All right. Well, you have the game on Wednesday night. We want to wish you the best of luck in that one, Coach, and go get them, man. We're going to be watching you all the way. You know, we're looking for a deep tournament run, and best of luck from us here at 3 Point Podcast, obviously.
All right, guys. Next up on the podcast is another former Corunna Cavalier. He graduated with me, played all 3 sports with Kyle, football, basketball, baseball, and we've talked a bunch about our run. It's already almost 20 years ago, Kyle. We made that run to Breslin Center.
Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah, but some awesome memories. So we'll get into that and probably plenty more. You're currently the head coach at Rockford. Just told us you're the number 1 seed in your district. So the first question, Kyle, is, well, first of all, thanks for joining us, but also, how you feeling heading into March with your squad going into your districts?
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. I mean, I love what you guys do with the podcast, and always entertaining to look at the topics you're talking about, and appreciate you mixing in some high school basketball here. But yeah, we've had a great year. This has been a really fun team to coach. We thought we would have a pretty good team here, and before our season started, we actually lost our first team all conference kid, and then also a 3-year starter right before the season. So there were a lot of unknowns for our guys, and but we have some great depth. We had some kids step into some pretty important roles and really deliver for us. And, we've just made a living off winning some pretty close games all year. So it's been a great team. I feel really good about where we're headed and what we're going to be able to do this week. And as you guys all know, you got to play really well. Obviously, you got to have a little luck. You got to, you got to have some ability to handle the adversity that's going to be there. And so certainly a lot goes into it, but I think we'll have as good of chance as any to be able to go out and hopefully get a win here Wednesday and on Friday.
We're going to bounce around a little bit, Kyle. We'll talk about your team and talk about your career a little bit, but you come from a great coaching tree really at Corunna, starting with, at least with me, Frank Davis, who mentored John Fattal, my brother. Then you came into the coaching business. It's just been awesome. We had young Johnny Fattal on. He's starting off his varsity head coach career now in his 3rd season. You're kind of now a seasoned veteran, coming through that coaching tree, as I mentioned. What is the biggest thing maybe that you've learned from being a younger head coach to where you're at right now?
Yeah, boy, it was really neat. I got a chance to go over and watch Johnny coach, a week or two ago against PW. I know you guys called the game, and boy, that was really cool for me. To watch how far he's come. I mean, Matt was just talking about 20 years ago us playing. I can remember him being a little squeaky wheel on the bus riding over to the Breslin Center, and he, what a phenomenal job he's done. I mean, just so proud of him and the way his team's played. I mean, I was driving home that night and I was like, my goodness, I'm at the point now where I got to start getting tips from him versus him calling me. So, his team plays with just obviously a lot of competitive fire, and they're so well coached, and so pretty awesome. And I'm sure old John would probably have said the same thing about watching me get started. It's just it's very cool and rewarding to see people that you've worked with and kind of mentored to come into the same profession and leads young guys and watch them follow him. And so it's been pretty neat, and there's still things on a daily basis that I draw from on, what John did with us. And, I think of all the things I take away from playing for him, it's, the daily reminder to empower your guys and get them to believe in themselves. I thought John was a masterful leader at that, as he convinced me that entire year that I was the best point guard in the state. And hell, I wasn't even the top 50 probably. So, but that he had a way of getting you to outwork your talent and believe in yourself maybe more than you thought. And, I try to do that with our guys too. You as a coach, I think your job is to see things developing before your players ever see them, both good and bad. And John was just incredible at that. So yeah, I take a lot from that and my experiences there as a player. And then obviously when I first started coaching there, and, you've learned a lot over the years too. And I think that I've become a better coach, having been over here now for 6 years and kind of learned to navigate those waters of what it takes to be, in charge of a big program like this and stuff. So I've really enjoyed it. I think, I'm becoming a better coach. I think I'm becoming a better leader. And I think that, hopefully we can continue to build something over here where our kids will leave here and go on and do some things like Johnny has, like I did for John. And we can look back and be proud on those things down the road as well.
Yeah, it wasn't too long ago that you were kind of the young upstart coach. I mean, I remember watching those games, a lot of excitement around the Corunna program. You've carried that over all the way to Rockford, building a great program. But what would you say is the biggest difference between the coach you were when you were at Corunna in your first couple years And after all this experience you've had, now that you're at Rockford, what's the biggest difference? Is it just program building, or is there more X's and O's, or what would you say?
Yeah, I mean, I think I look back on my time at Corunna, man, and I knew nothing. I mean, seriously, like it's you always hear people say that, I think, when you get to a certain point in your career, but I mean, I didn't have a clue what I was doing. I think that I really kind of just brought a lot of energy and maybe some toughness. I think those things didn't require a ton of experience, just trying to get us in a good place there. But yeah, I mean, from a philosophy standpoint, there's a lot. I mean, I see things now when I watch film or when we prepare for another team or when I watch our team that give me direction on what to do in practice and where to go from there. I think I've gotten better at that just naturally over time. But managing your team and your roster as well, and role defining. I think that's been one of the great challenges here is, this program, obviously we've got 2,600 kids in the school. We got 60 kids in middle school basketball, 30 trying out for freshmen. I mean, we have really good depth, and learning how to manage that and navigate that and get guys to buy into roles has been, a big test here. And I think that the last 2 years, I think that's why we've had a lot of success. We have guys that, for example, 2 of my starters this year played less than 2 minutes a game last year on our team. And to have those guys, fight through that season last year, bring it in practice every day for us, to keep the faith, to keep the trust that if they keep working hard, it's going to pay off. That's been really rewarding. And so I think, little things like that, just learning how to see the program a year or two down the road and what the right buttons are to push as you get there, and making sure guys stay on the right path to keep getting better, and then obviously it helps to have some good players. I mean, the other thing I've learned about coaching is that you're a hell of a lot better coach when you got guys that can shoot it and score it and do that kind of thing. So it gets easier the better the players you have. There's no question.
Yeah, speaking of good players, I was talking to Ted before we started recording and just kind of reminding him, we had 9, our team, we had 9 seniors, only 1 junior. That 1 junior ended up going to Western Michigan to play. But I'm sure you remember 6 of our players made all conference.
Yeah.
Like, that's unheard of. Our starting 5 and our 6th man made all conference. Like, I don't think that happens ever.
That was probably a low number, to be fair. I think that, I remember John telling us the story a few years later that he walked in and said, "Hey, I got the best 7 players in the league." It's like that's a John Fattal quote for the ages there. But, we had guys, like you, Matt. I mean, you and I compete against each other every day, and that has been a nice comparison to my team I have over here this year. Is we have guys. I mean, we create environments in practice that I truly believe sometimes are tougher than the game. And I think that's been a blessing for this team that we have right now. Is that we have. I mean, we play 9 guys, and we have 12 that we carry on the roster. And I mean, our practices are just incredibly competitive, and so. I think, 20 years ago, that's what made us so good is that, hell, there were times where we got in the game and it was like, man, this guy's not guarding me nearly as difficult as Matt did all day in practice. It's not even close, So, yeah, that's pretty neat. Those are some cool memories and just amazing. It's been 20 years for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Another thing real quick that when we were talking to Johnny, everything he was saying about his team this year with Freeland, I felt like I could have been saying about our team. He was talking about how big the community support is that they see over in Freeland. How he's got a ton of seniors. We had, like I said, we had 9 seniors on our team. He talked about how a lot of his players were multi-sport athletes and multiple years of varsity basketball, multiple years of varsity football. Very similar. I mean, you and, some other guys played multiple years of varsity sports. All of that stuff. How big do you think all of that is? The community support that we definitely experienced at Corunna. You definitely experienced up at Rockford. I know how it is up there. The senior leadership, the community, how big is that whole package, I guess, to having a successful program?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's, those are the things that make it special, and I remember my dad telling me a long time ago when I first started coaching, he's like, it's not going to be the championships that are going to be the most special. You think it is as a young coach, and you think that finally getting a chance to hold the trophy or cut the net is what it's all about. But it's really it is that process that goes along with it, and watching Johnny from afar, I know it's the first undefeated team they've had in 20 years or 40 years or something
40
crazy.
years, yeah.
Watching the way that their community's rallying behind them. And that's awesome. I mean, that's really special. And like you said, I remember, those are the things I remember about our run. Those are the things I remember is just the pep assembly we had, the way that people would reach out to you in the community after you played a game or when you were getting ready for the next big one. And those are the things you remember, I mean, heck, outside of Brandon Bell missing that wide open 3 at the regional final game, I can't remember a whole lot of the individual plays throughout those games. You know, I just remember celebrating with our friends and our family. And so, yeah, those are special. Those are special. And, you know, especially this time of year, you know, I think you mentioned the seniors. That's something I think that as I've coached longer, I've learned to appreciate more and more. I think that, you know, those guys they feel the delicacy of what this is all about. When you know that, you know, it's at any moment, it could be your last one. There's just this different focus and effort and intensity and practice leading into these types of games. And I think your senior laden teams in high school always are going to have a big advantage, you know. And we have a couple of good young players. We got a really good sophomore, a couple of really good juniors. And, you know, I've had to really talk with them over the last week because you can sense a little bit of, not that they're not into it, but you can sense a little bit of like, hey, we got a lot of time left here and this is all cake. And our seniors, you can see a little bit of a different look in their eye. And I watched Johnny's team play, like I said, a week ago. And man, I mean, what an incredible group of upperclassmen and leaders, and the way they play, the way they're focused in the timeouts. I mean, geez, oh, Pete, he's got a really special team there. I'd be really surprised if they don't go make a heck of a run.
You know, Kyle, we hated to see you leave Corunna, but we 100% understand why, and you're now successful back here in Michigan up at Rockford. But tell us a little bit about your experience in Hoosier hysteria when you were down at Seymour, and maybe some difference in Indiana basketball compared to Michigan.
Yeah, I mean, you know, you always hear about Hoosier hysteria, and you don't really have quite an understanding of what it is until you get down there. And, you know, I remember, you know, I took over at Seymour and loved the place, learned a lot of great things there, but man, we were absolutely awful when I started there. And, you know, to go into the gym with a team that had won, I think 3 games the 2 previous years. And we were in a major uphill battle that first year, and you walk in and there's almost 4,000 people at the first game. You know, I mean, they really embrace it. It's you know, it's something that their communities rally around. It's just kind of one of those things you grow up with down there. I think you grow up with this understanding that like that is important. That is really a big deal. And, you know, I would compare it to like Michigan football. I mean, we see that here when playoff time rolls around. You see, I mean, heck, Rockford will have 8,000 people at a football game. It's like, you know, those kinds of things just are ingrained in you as a young kid. And it was neat, you know, and I've been kind of watching and following some of the scores down there. I know a bunch of coaches still at that time, and still to see some of the pictures in those gyms down there. It's unbelievable what kind of a following those districts get down there. And then, you know, the other thing that I've said all along, when I got back here, one of the differences I noticed was, I think when you look at a program like Rockford or the big Class A schools up here, I mean, heck, there's every bit as good of players in this state for sure. But I think the thing that separates Indiana is you get into those smaller schools, and, you know, the Johnny Fattals of the world, who are just a great coach at a smaller school. I mean, those are all over the place down there. The small schools down there are incredibly well coached. Those small schools put a huge priority on their programs, and there's just the depth of coaching down there was always amazing to me, you know, when we would go against some of those smaller schools. So, but yeah, my time, it made me a better coach. You know, I mean, the team that we had there, I mean, we had to be absolutely perfect to stay in games. And I think as a coach, that at the time it was stressful and overwhelming, but I think it made me a better coach. I look for things now that, you know, when I was at Corunna, I didn't look for. You know, we had some pretty good players those couple of years, and you kind of overlook some of those important small details. But when you know that you're going to get beat by 25 if you're not perfect, you got to really zone in on all those small details. And so I take those things with me, you know, probably to, you know, here when we watch film, I probably find things now that I would have never found had we not gone down there and tried to work through that process too.
I'm just going to throw this. This is an off the wall question, but I was going to save it for the last question of the interview, but maybe it'll be a little bit of a halftime. So I'm kind of in a weird point in my life where, you know, basically if I want to get, you know, my hair, it's kind of going. If I want to get, you know, a lot of celebrities that I look up to are getting these hair plugs. And, you know, so I did a little bit of research, looked into it.
LeBron.
As somebody who's, you know, basically I'm at the point where if I don't get them now, my hair is going to be gone, and I'm just never going to have hair again. As somebody who's gone through this whole process and seen the light of day on the other side, you know, looks pretty good with a bald head, would you say it's worth the investment? If you could go back to when you were a kid or when you started losing your hair, would you have done a procedure like that?
Well, listen, when I was a senior, I can remember getting chants about my receding hairline in Corunna. So I was destined to be on this path from the beginning. But, you know, it was a very, you know, I don't know. It was just a very free day when I finally started shaving my head and just got rid of the fact that, what I was holding on to there. And I laughed because I was at, Johnny's game, and I saw he went a little higher and tighter with it now. And he's kind of said, hey, it's time to go. And I don't know. I blame your dad on that, because all of us have a darn good connection with him. And here we are, no hair to show for it. But unless you got LeBron's
Ted, how you doing?
and he can do something for you, which
It's
looks
going.
amazing. I don't know. I wouldn't trust any local hair plugs to try to piece that thing together. I'd just zoom it off, and then, makes it a lot easier in your morning get together too.
I think that's what I got to do. I'm thinking too much about it, but I'll bring it back to basketball with this question. So last week we were talking about the AAU circuit. Matt's got a recently born son. You have a son that's coming up the ranks. Let's say that he wants to, he really wants to become a good basketball player. Would you be wary to put him into the AAU sort of circuit? Do you think that system is broken, or do you think there's still a lot to be gained from it?
Well, I think that there are some improvements that can be made. I mean, I think that's obvious. I think, as a head coach, I try to look at it and ask myself, how can the relationship with the AAU world be beneficial to a high school coach, and then vice versa? And I have a bunch of what I would consider friends in the AAU world, and guys that run programs and coach. And, I think there's a lot of good there. And I think sometimes AAU gets a little bit of a bad knack because of the bad ones, because one thing that we've seen over the last 20 years is everybody makes a team now, right? Yeah. Everybody offers a team, and it's become a financial investment for some people, as opposed to an ability and a way to showcase players who are really interested at playing at the next level. And so I think navigating those waters is a big challenge. And I think, one thing we've done here is we try to really communicate with our parents and our players early about, the programs that we would get involved with if we were them, the guys that we trust in that program, the guys that we think are doing it for the right reasons. And cause there's a lot of bad out there, I mean, like I said, I think one of the things that I battle every day and is twofold. One, everybody makes a team, everybody gets to play 6 games in a weekend, So I feel like there's been this like devalue in winning that causes issues with kids. Sometimes you go to a weekend tournament in Fort Wayne, you're going to play 6 games. Doesn't matter if you win, doesn't matter if you get beat by 50. And so then they come back to us, and it's like, hey, there's a big emphasis on winning here. There's some important possessions that are going to really make a difference. And so there is those challenges that you run into. But, I think from a recruiting standpoint, when you start talking about, Division II, Division I players, I think it's an important piece of the puzzle. I do. I think college coaches have, really found their way of recruiting through AAU. I think they rely, when they get serious about a guy, I think they rely on the high school coach and some of the thoughts there, because that's a little bit more aligned with how they're going to be coached and play and demanded of things. But I do think it's an important piece of the puzzle. And I just think it's important to make sure that you do your research and your homework to find out, is this going to be a good experience? Is this going to help my development? Am I going to play, quality competition that's going to make me a better player for the season? And so, I learned a long time ago that complaining about it and being unhappy about it's irrelevant, because it's going to be here. It's going to be a part of it. And I think, just guiding your players into the right places with the right people is helpful. And learning what their goals are and what their ambitions are will help make those decisions. If you want to play college basketball, then we need to put you in the right place and make sure that the right guys are working with you every day, and that you're getting in front of the right people and not just wasting a lot of money. I think that's those are the waters you got to navigate, and you got to have enough people you trust in the AAU world that you can work with.
Let me jump in here kind of along the same topic. I kind of went on a little rant last week on our last podcast about somebody had sent me a tweet asking about a local program that had really been on hard times. And I couldn't comment specifically because I'm not there all the time, right? But my comment was, Kyle, that a successful varsity coach, whether it doesn't matter the sport, the key word is program, and they have to put their program in place how they want it, and they have to put the time to start with the 3rd, 4th graders and really show your face, in front of these kids so they can become future Rams. I mean, is that part of your philosophy, and do you take it any further than that?
No question. And I think you could talk to a plethora of high school coaches, and guys will have difference of opinions on what the right thing to do when they're young is. And when I was in Seymour, Indiana, I went and I met with what I consider probably three of the best programs in the state of Indiana. And I went and sat down with their head coaches, and I just said, "What do you do? What is your secret to building consistency?" Because when I look at this job here in Rockford, my goal when I got here was to build a consistent, competitive team. Right, like every year we feel like we're close, and then occasionally you get the right groups and the right mixtures, you can make a run. And so, what we really put an emphasis on is being able to provide like a recreational opportunity. You get kids at a young age. Like we talk about Dan Hess at the beginning of this. I can remember Dan in 7th grade. He was like a deer on ice, man. I was like, this kid's he's never gonna be anything great. There's no way. And all of a sudden, with some time and some development, and he caught up to his coordination a little bit. And I mean, you don't want to just focus too much on just the competitive travel aspect of this. You want to make sure you give some kids a chance in-house to continue to get better too. And so, what we've done is just try to build a combination of recreational opportunities. And then we have a travel program, and then we try to kind of layer it. We look at kids and we do say, hey, right now you're in 5th grade. You're one of the best players. That's outstanding. And we think that, with 8 or 9 of our most talented kids at this age, we can throw them out there and go play in competitive environments. We want them going to Fort Wayne and Detroit and here in Grand Rapids. And we want them playing some big time players, because ultimately at this stage, that's what you're going to have to do eventually, but we also have like 2nd and 3rd teams that we want getting a lot of experience and a lot of practice, and, they'll play some more local competition, have some success, and so, but yeah, to answer your question, I just don't think you can do it. I just don't think you can do it right and be consistent without having an impact at the lower levels, and that's hard. I mean, as I've gotten older now with 2 kids and a wife who's working, I mean, I can totally see how coaches get far enough into this thing and then they start to kind of let go of that part of it. That's the easiest part to let go, because people don't necessarily care or focus as much on that part of it as they do you winning at the varsity level, right? But
Right.
Deep down that for you to be consistent with that, you have to stay in touch there. You have to go to the middle school game on a Wednesday night at 4:30 and let those kids see you. And I just got done doing a kindergarten 1st and 2nd grade clinic for 4 straight Saturdays in the middle of our conference championship run, because my son wanted to go. It's like, and there were times I'd wake up in the morning and it'd be the last thing on Saturday morning I wanted to do, but you get there and you kind of see the excitement. You have some parents come in and talk to you that they were at the game the night before. And I think that's important. You want them to know who you are, and we're starting to see, the fruits of our labor from the first year I got here. Our seniors last year were the first group that we had in what we call the Rock program, that we're traveling and we're practicing, and we were in touch with that part of it. And, and I don't think it's coincidence that we've won back-to-back conference titles. I really don't. I think those players have come up and, we've been in constant touch and communication with them and their families, and watched them and travel around to follow them. And, I think that's been a huge, huge advantage for our program. And I'm awfully proud of that. That's one thing that I am proud of, because we get these kids up to us, and by the time they get to us, they know us, they understand our expectations. We're constantly feeding them ideas and ways to play. I think it's important to tell your 5th grade coaches, listen, you're not going to go play a 2-3 zone in this tournament. We're not going to ever do that. That's not who I am. And as long as I'm here, it's wasting time for us to do that, And so if you're not in touch with those things, youth sports can go in a totally different direction, and guys can be focused on just winning right now as opposed to developing these guys long-term. So, I think that's where that's where you make your money. That's where you build consistency with your program. And the guys that do that are the guys that are usually the most successful long-term.
Yeah, I think the big word that you're throwing out is consistency. Like, obviously, if you don't have that commitment to your program, every few years, yeah, you're going to have some good players and you'll probably have some success, but it's going to be a lot of ups and downs. But clearly, I mean, I would say from afar, there's a reason that you guys are having the success, because you've got a great coach in yourself, you've got a commitment to the program, and then yes, you do have some good players. I think having a commitment to the program from the top to the bottom is so big if you want to have that consistency. Like I said, Kyle, maybe the last question that I have for you before we get you out of here, let you go enjoy your Sunday. I'm down here at the SEC Network, and one of the best coaches in the conference, Nate Oates, he's now at Alabama. The question I have for you, so you're Corunna, down to Indiana, up to Rockford. I know you're very focused on Rockford right now, but You got to answer the question. You probably people, bring it up to you. You're young, successful. Nate Oates, just back in 2013, he was the head coach in high school at Romulus in Michigan. And, he bounced over to Buffalo and coached at Buffalo for a few years. And now, like I said, he's at Alabama, and he's coaching one of the best programs in the country, not just in the SEC. Alabama is a really good program. Do you have any thoughts like that? Or, with the young kids, and you're in a good community, in Rockford, are you kind of focused on that? Or do you kind of, the wheels start spinning, you start thinking, you see people like Nate Oates making that jump, and you kind of start thinking about that?
I think this is my 12th year now as a varsity coach. And I would say for the first, 5 or 6 years, that was always something that was a possibility for me, something I would look at and say, man, I would love to get to there, but again, you mentioned that was before kids, I think that's one part of it. I think, I'm really enjoying this part of my career with working with, our high school kids. It's such an impressionable age. We talked all about our experience and, what John was able to do for us. And, I really enjoyed that part of this. And when I started coaching, listen, I'm a competitive guy. You all know me well. It was all about winning. That was it, and I remember having constant conversations with my dad and different people and who had certainly older and more experienced, and, hearing stories about the relationships and guys coming back, and, for me, that's where I'm focused at. I don't think I'll ever coach in college, to be honest with you. I just don't think that the transition there will ever be just maybe right for my family or I. And this is, to me, this is like a small college job. I mean, the expectations are as high as you're going to get at a college job. People here, they expect to win. And the Class A basketball level is challenging and enjoyable to me. Like I told you, I mean, we're 18-2, and we got 2 teams this week that, my gosh, I haven't slept thinking about. It's like, so, I see myself. I don't know if I'll be a lifer or not, but I see myself continuing. My son has really taken a liking to basketball and sports. And like I said, being able to coach him, and I can finally see those things long-term. And, I haven't played for my dad, those experiences, that'll keep me energized and keep me focused on continuing. And, and then I'm motivated by trying to continuously, take this team to the next level too. I mean, for me, we've had a heck of a couple of years here, but we still have a lot to prove. I mean, you and I remember in 2003 walking into that gym the next day and seeing all that Rockford orange. And so for me, that's kind of my mountaintop, is to try to get this team back to a place where every year we're not only a team that they're talking about winning the OK Red, but a team that's going to be state ranked, and we're going to be a threat to make a run. And so I'm really enjoying that. And, if something, who knows, I think that you never know what's going to happen eventually, but I'm not going to go chase anything down like Nate Oates. He's a heck of a lot more ambitious and energized than I am. So, but kudos to him. He's done a heck of a job, and I'm just really enjoying it. I've found a really good place in my life and a really good place with our program here. And hopefully we can just continue to make this a little bit better while we're here.
Well, I got one final question for you, Kyle. I'll bring it back full circle to this year's Rockford Rams, 18-2. Why don't you give us a little thumbnail sketch on some of your top players and what we can expect as you go into the tournament?
Yeah. So, we had 3 all-conference players this year. Our 3-year starter, Jack Lamacuza, he's a captain for us. He's averaging about 13 points a game. And then our point guard, who's only averaging about 6 points a game, but he's got 5 assists, 2 steals, just does a lot for us. And then we have a 6'6" junior, Caden Pokerzinski, who's probably the best prospect we've had since I've been here. I mean, he's the first kid, I think, since I've been here that we have. He's a borderline GLIAC kid, I think, in the long run, if he can continue to build. And but I think the thing about our team that's really made us special this year is our depth. I mean, we bring 2 kids off the bench, and I was talking to a coach in our league about this, and he said, what makes you guys so tough is you bring 2 guys off the bench that can get you 10 to 15, and I think that's been a huge advantage for us, is that our depth has really been able to kind of maybe wear some people down, and we bring a couple of nice scoring punches off the bench. And so I hope that we can get to that this week. I think our depth is going to be an advantage for us in these 2 games. There's some serious firepower on the other sides of the teams that we're playing, but if we can roll out 8-9 guys and continue to be as stout defensively as we have at times this year, we're going to have a chance. And I think that, that's the neat part. And I was talking to our guys about that the other day. I said, listen, man, you guys are awfully lucky. We're going to have 2 incredible opportunities this week and going to be 2 really, really good games. And, hopefully we can just continue to do what we've done. They've surprised me all year. There's times where I feel like we get into halftime and I couldn't feel like we were playing worse defensively. And then all of a sudden at the end of the game, we've given up 49 points. And they just keep coming. So it's been a lot of fun. And I, as a coach, you just hope that you can do everything in your power to get them as close as possible. And then you guys know this time of year, it's about those players going out there and making plays. And hopefully we can do that. I think at the end of the day, it's been a successful season for us, but it sure would be some icing on the cake for us to go play well this week.
I have to interject. I just have one more quick question for you, Kyle. And I can't believe I forgot that this even happened. Earlier this year, you guys had an insane buzzer beater where it basically went viral. I loved it. Kid hit the shot. I'm sorry, I don't have the name in front of me. The entire team basically sprints out of the gym. The entire student section follows them out of the gym. What was that like, and what was the locker room like after that?
That was awesome, and those are the kinds of things that this team has had, which is great. We've won some really close games. That one, what made that so amazing is that we were on defense with 7 seconds to go tied, and we got the turnover and the shot goes in. And so it's been one of those years, it's been one of those special seasons with things like that go your way. And like I said, you need luck sometimes. And that certainly was, some luck to us, but it was neat. Our student section has been phenomenal all year. I think you've seen that across the state. Kids last year couldn't attend games, and the energy level in these gyms has been really cool to get back to. And so that was awesome. That was a great springboard for us early in the year. I think it was an important win for us to keep building on. And, it was pretty neat. And, it was awesome for Matt to have some connections there to help us get on SportsCenter.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So it was really cool, but it's been a great year, a lot of fun. And, I certainly wouldn't mind seeing one more of those buzzer beaters this week, as long as it was on our side.
Amen. Well, look, Kyle, we really appreciate you taking time. We do like to give a little extra Cavalier love every once in a while, since we all graduated from Corunna, but we're pulling for you. We appreciate the time, and best of luck in the tournament, man. We'll touch bases with you again down the road.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. It's always special. And I truly, this is not a burden. This is a great pleasure of mine to be able to connect with you guys and love what you do. And hopefully we can connect again, maybe down the road, and we'll keep an eye on Johnny's team over there too. And hopefully they can make a run as well.
Awesome.
Maybe in a few weeks after a trip back to Breslin, right?
That would be all right. Yeah. That'd be good.
All right, cool. Kyle, take care,
thanks,
man.
Guys.
Cool.
Yeah. Thanks,
Appreciate it.
Thank
Hey,
you.
appreciate it, man. All right, guys, that was a blast. A great show. Talking with John Fattal, the head coach of the Freeland Falcons, and Kyle Clough of the Rockford Rams, obviously the Corunna connection, pulling for them, getting ready for some great March basketball. About time, right? March basketball, Masters coming up in April, the weather's starting to break. This is awesome. So good show, fellas. And anybody out there listening, make sure you give us a follow at 3 Point Pod. Let our partners know you listen in and enjoy the show. They include Crow Real Estate and Auction, Rivals Tap House and Grill, Nelson House Funeral Homes, Success Group Mortgage and Servicing, The Wash of Owasso, the ALS Association of Michigan, and Z92.5 The Castle. Speaking of The Castle, our game, we'll have a doubleheader on Monday night, March 7th from Corunna High School. It'll be 5:30 tip, Mount Morris taking on Owasso. We'll follow that up with a 7 o'clock game, Chesaning taking on the Corunna Cavaliers, and both those games will be posted at the 3 Point Pod site the day after. So until next time, so long everyone, and bye for now.